the number of answers to that are probably only limited to the number of professional practices there are out there. There are a range of reasons. Tax is one, and we keep coming back to that. But that can sometimes be in the eye of the beholder from that perspective. We're seeing, certainly from a risk management perspective and asset protection and the credit crunch and everything else that's going on, and the changes to the bankruptcy rules in the recent past mean that I think everyone is much more aware that when things go wrong, it's very attractive to have your liability limited, and obviously that's probably the biggest advantage of an incorporated model. There's also, I guess, a sense from people talk about retaining key staff and the skills shortage that many professional organisations are facing these days, that it tends to make sharing of equity a lot easier if you've got a true corporate model, and that can sometimes be as simple from a perception viewpoint that, you know, a lot of times staff or key employees are much more aligned and find it much easier to understand the company's setup as opposed to some sort of fancy trust arrangement or a service trust arrangement for that matter. Certainly the transaction cost side of things in terms of the hard costs, particularly stamp duty, in most states now, the concept of having to pay stamp duty on the transfer of listed shares is basically a thing of the past. So that can be very attractive to people. And I guess the last one, and perhaps this is touching on the perception side of it again, is I think the corporate model from a governance perspective, it tends to be a lot easier for people to understand, and we've done a lot of work in this area, and it's interesting that by becoming a director and by having a board and by having shareholders and all of these sort of more formal things, even though the deck chairs haven't really changed in the organisation, that there seems to be an air of governance around the place that just wasn't there while they remained as a partnership.